Welcome back to the most audacious EMS podcast on planet Earth, the Paramedic AF Show. We are here to challenge, encourage, and sometimes hurt your feelings. This isn't for the weak, the woke, or the apathetic. This is a show for the ones who show up and give a damn, the bold and the brazen. So stand up, stay vigilant, and enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome back. It's your favorite people. Long time no see. We're burning the midnight oil again. Hope you guys know we love you. So, it's a good time. Riding the struggle bus. So tonight we kind of want to dig into something that Michelle and I were talking about earlier, and this is anecdotal, so take it with a grain of salt. But we were talking about, in general, the caliber of EMTs that we've worked with over the years, the caliber of EMTs that we were, not like tooting our own horns. Obviously, we were, people, make mistakes, but, we cared about doing the job right. We cared about being good EMTs, taking the initiative to be good EMTs. And that has translated into our careers as medics. But we were just noting that we've seen that there's a general downward trend in the amount of initiative that EMTs are willing to take. And I think the fault is multifaceted. It's not like, oh, this generation's a bunch of lazy motherfuckers, like a lot of people whine about it. It's a little deeper than that. So
They're EMTs of all ages, and I don't think it has strictly anything to do with their education or program they went to. I think it comes down to a mindset. And sure, we're primarily going to talk about EMTs because what is EMT? It's the first stepping stone towards any higher level education, whether it's paramedic or PA school, med school, nursing, whatever. It's the first stepping stone. But paramedics need to take, I would say, appropriate initiative on calls too. So we're going to kind of break it down.
yeah,
First, we kind of want to talk about EMTs taking initiation.
initiative,
What did I say?
taking initiation,
Oh, huh. That's a type.
verbal stroke.
It's a type of verbal stroke. Um,
Been a little while.
Initiative, huh?
Nothing.
I splice words all the time. Um, Now I'm trying to decide which
EMTs
one.
taking initiative.
Initiative. There we
Yes.
go. Not initiation. Initiative. EMTs taking initiative with their education, and learning the job. And what I mean by that is I at the very basics when EMTs are going through school and everything, there seems to be a general misconception with the general public, that because EMT school is one semester, it's easy. And yes, the general public doesn't know, what goes into the certification, everything. So that's like an education problem that EMS needs to provide the general public. But, once you are in EMT school and doing your ride alongs and everything, something that I have seen is there are some EMTs that are overzealous. Like they are on their EMT student ride time, not even certified yet, and they're wanting to ask the medic questions, the medication questions, the intubation, why this, why that. And to an extent, I always tell students when I get ones like that, I'm like, look, I'll have a general conversation with you because I know you're curious and I want to pique your curiosity, but at the same time, this is not what you should be focusing on. One student asked me to break down an EKG lead by lead, and I'm like, baby, I'll do it generally for you because I know you're
Mm-hmm.
interested in this, but
Which is great.
yeah, it's great, but you need to skip the boring stuff, the basic stuff, and want to jump ahead to get to the more advanced exciting stuff because your foundation, the basics, is the most important thing that you're going to learn. I mean, Daniel and I were talking about it with the new EMT class this semester, and we were talking with them. They're asking questions about what they should focus on and blah blah blah. And I mean, obviously it came down to, well, read your book, know your stuff, blah blah blah. But BVM, for
Mm-hmm.
example, is one of the most important things that you can do for a patient, and that's a BLS skill.
That and
That's
CPR.
Well, yeah, that is CPR, and I mean, honestly, that's a first responder skill. I mean,
Yeah.
it's with your basic CPR. It's with anybody that has taken an EMR class
Hmm.
learns like the basics of that. So like it EMTs need to take initiative. I keep wanting to say initiation. Initiative. They get initiated into EMS, but they need to take the initiative to do justice in their initial education.
Well, and I think and it was funny because there was actually a comment on one of the posts that I think you shared. It was the asking for general advice about any topic. Like
Oh
if you,
yeah.
yeah, the person, and I can't remember your name. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me right now. My phone's being used to record this.
Well, we also shared that post on like three different pages.
Yeah, well, I think they commented on the original.
It
I
did
think,
on
I
EMS
think,
2.0.
yeah.
Okay, I'll go back and look.
But he said, plan for the marriage, not the wedding. And I think that unfortunately, because a lot of EMT programs are becoming more condensed, there's more of a focus on volume. There's a lot of focus on the wedding, on passing national registry, passing the final exam, and not enough on, hey, let's actually prepare you for what's on the other side of that test. Um, and again, a lot of this falls back on the students back to prioritize their learning and to have the bigger picture. But they also, especially coming through EMT school, they don't know any better.
Hmm.
They haven't been taught. They're being taught for the first time, so they don't know what to expect. They think that this test is like the way it is. Because I've had students ask me, they're like, I did my first ride time and the medic like didn't follow the sheet. I'm like, exactly, they don't, because that's not how we do it. Yes, we cover all of the content, but we don't do it in the same order. You get your
Well,
ABCs, and then after that, it's kind of like you do your thing.
well, with paramedic though, you learn the AMLS pathway of assessment, which does skip around and is more of a natural flow of things.
Right.
But when you fall back, especially with EMT, I mean, if you think about how a call should be run, especially with a trauma, we do tend to fall back on the National Registry sheet.
I mean, maybe there's a level of instinct that does, and certainly, I wouldn't even say that for me. Like, I just, I don't even know how to describe it. And maybe it's just because I've just gotten used to a certain way of doing things. Not in a bad way, just I have my own, like my own way that it works in my head
Hmm.
that I do it. And I can still regurgitate a good bit of the list.
Hmm.
I still am cognizant of what's on it, but there's a deeper understanding of the why and the what and the what's the prioritizing. And you know you're I think it's just, like I said, we're pushing people to check a box, not to be prepared for the long haul, not to have the emotional readiness, emotional, mental, whatever. We're just shoving them through and saying, "All right, cool, good luck, have fun." And on the other side of that is such a mixed bag of FTOs and, senior people of all certifications and all levels of experience. There's pretty much zero consistency. Once people are cut loose, once they have those cards in their pocket, all right, cool, now what? And it's luck of the draw as far as what kind of an FTO you're going to get. You're going to get people that are lazy, that don't give a shit, that are fixated on the wrong things. You're going to have just it's awful. It's atrocious, because I don't blame a lot of EMTs for basically sitting on their hands for a lot of a call, because they've been beat down so much, either just by people that don't care or people that won't let them take initiative, that won't let them step up and do things. A lot of EMT students do want to actually step up and do things,
Hmm.
but they're not being encouraged to do it the right fucking way.
Well, and I mean, on that front, I would argue that those people, if they're not going to do the job the right way, then they need to be fucking fired or quit. Um, but taking the initiative to, through school and then as a new graduate, um, learn the job.
Yeah.
Learn how to be a good EMT and a good partner. And part of that too, like some feedback that I've gotten from some, well, I guess it wasn't a recent student, but like from students in general, is during EMT school and ride-alongs, they wanted to learn how to assist a paramedic more. So, like, how to put on an EKG, the mnemonics that we use to remember, what
Hmm.
color leads go where, um, helping like set up IV start kits and spiking bags and stuff like that. Now, you're going to have some weird people like me that'll like their shit done a certain way, and I don't like when people squeeze the air out of my fluid bag, but
Okay, so like that the reason I'm laughing is because like you, and I love it. I love it so much that there's EMTs that it's like their pride and joy to set up the INT for me. Now, and there are times when I need it. I'm just
well,
like,
yeah.
hey, you know what? Like, especially if it's not a ready-made IV start kit, they gotta like, oh yeah, let me go through this tackle box and give you the 5 different pieces that you need. Okay, just fix it and hand it to me. But like,
Mhm.
if you've got a ready-made start kit, just fucking toss it to me, and you can do literally anything else. And I was that EMT. I was like, I'm so proud to do this. I'm so excited. And now that I'm a medic, I was like, I really don't give a shit. Like, just give it to me. You do other things. Not in a dismissive way, but in a, hey, there's actually things I need you to be doing. There's way more important things, even if it's just getting patient demographics.
Mhm.
That's fucking important. That's crucial. If I have a sick patient, I need to get them pre-registered.
Mhm.
If they're a stroke, a STEMI, a cardiac arrest, what have you, if we have that stuff, awesome. Like that's great. But no,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, not to go complete deep dive off, but I'm the same way. I have like a way I do things, and you don't need to do it for me. It's fine.
Well, so, and I mean, there are certain situations where that's fine, like you said. But I think the important thing is the EMTs on, you know, if you walk in, I'm trying to think of the way I want to explain this. So you have certain providers that when you go in and it's a perceived ALS call
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, the paramedic is the one that wants to ask the questions. Like, period, the
Mm-hmm.
end.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, just speaking anecdotally, like from experience, I'm one of those people that, like, unless it's like an alert, like a,
Mm-hmm.
a code STEMI, or
Yeah.
a
Where you need to
code
know certain
sepsis, or,
things.
or whatever, that I have to prioritize certain things. Like, if it's a critical as fuck patient, yes, I need to do my job. But like, if it's anything in between, even if we find out, hey, we thought it was BLS, but really it's ALS, like, we all can ask questions. Um, but the thing that I think is important for EMTs is to know how to do their job well enough that they don't have to be given specific directions on how to be an EMT from the paramedic on a critical patient.
Yes. Yes.
Take the initiative to not just learn your job, but actually execute your job. So we had a couple like story examples to, I guess, kind of explain this, good and bad. Um, do you want to go first, or do you want me to do my Thursday
No,
call?
you go ahead. Your Thursday call is a good example.
Okay. So I was call out this past week for a rollover MVA, and I think we've shared on here. I'm in a QRV by myself. So I had a transport truck coming to this call with me. I ran a call earlier in the shift. It was a double EMT. One of them looked middle age. I don't know how long either of them had been doing it. And the other one, this poor baby, he looked like he was 12 years old. I mean, he looked 12 years old.
Don't most of them
He
now
was
though?
so sweet. This child, like, it's one thing to joke that they look 12 years old. I would have bet a paycheck that he was. Anyways, call out to rollover MVA. The call notes were relatively vague, like, all things considered, but it was like, oh, possibly rolled 5 times. Or 5 or 6 times. I'm like, okay, is it 5 or is it 6? Is this, bullshit
I
or
mean, it's
oh
fucked on no
shit?
matter what.
Well, but is it bullshit or is it oh shit? Because, like, there was almost no other information.
Hmm.
Because they were like, oh, it's one car. Oh no, 2 cars were involved. Oh no, it's multi car. It's like, okay, you either see a bunch of cars or you don't.
Yeah.
So before I even left my station, I went ahead and put a helo on standby.
Which neither of us ever do
I almost
normally.
never do this, but I was really far out, and it didn't sound great if it was oh shit. So I put a helo on standby at a 13-minute ETA. I figured fire or somebody would beat me on scene. So I'm like halfway there. They, tell me that the helo accepted the call, and we start getting reports, and literally the reports were the wreck was involved. And I was like, okay, like the cars were involved in the wreck. It's like fully involved fire. Like, what are we talking about? Well, I had to go down to the next exit, cross over, and get back on the exit to get northbound to get to the wreck. Well, so as I'm driving past the wreck, I look to my left and the vehicle was on fire and the forest was on fire. And I was like, oh,
It's
so
all on fire.
so it's all on fire. So I mean, immediately I was like, oh, dead. Like, because it was off the highway and down like in a ravine. Like I couldn't even see the wreck.
Hmm.
Everything was on fire. I was like, okay. So, anyways,
A
get on
a
scene.
little flame grilled patient,
I mean,
like a Burger King patient.
more like the flame mosquito grilled the mosquito burger. Anyways,
Yeah.
sorry, we sidestepped.
That's nasty.
If you didn't know that, I don't even.
Some place in Africa they make mosquito burgers.
Yeah,
They literally have so many mosquitoes they just like catch them out of the air
it
and
makes
like make little
hamburger
patties.
patties. Go look at the video; it's nasty.
nasty.
Anyways,
Oh my
I
God.
sidestepped. So I pull up behind the wreck. I'm first on scene. I beat fire. I beat
I
the
hate that.
yeah. I beat fire. I beat the EMS crew. Like I beat everybody. So I check on the first car and they're like, "Oh, we were just witnesses." I was like, "Okay, I need to know. Is it one car? Is it two cars? Is it like what's going on?" They're like, "It's one car. He rolled 5 times. Like we saw the roof of his car roll 5 times and he went down in that ditch." I was like, "Was anybody ejected?" And they were like, "Don't know." So I mean, yeah. So I walk up to the guardrail and I look down and I mean, this car, I think it was a truck, was upside down. All the tires had popped, fully involved. Forest was on fire. And I was like, okay, so dead. Well, all of a sudden I hear, help. And I'm like, oh no.
Fuck.
I'm still by myself on scene.
No.
And I look down to the right and there was this huge black man that was holding like this chocolate vanilla swirled looking dude over his shoulder. And I was like, what is going on? He was like, help, it's the driver. I was like, shit. So I go ahead and launch.
Help, exactly what we need.
Yeah, I launched the helo still by myself. Launch the helo. I slide my happy ass down into the ravine, into the fire. Yes, my scene was not safe. Daniel has chewed my ass for this. Yeah. Anyways, so I make patient
The mental
contact.
images I've had of this call are nothing short of like Hollywoodish.
I mean,
It's hilarious.
it's probably exactly, you're probably picturing exactly what happened. Like
Those calls are fun though. Like
we were
when,
within 10 feet of that truck.
when you can have that like out of body experience and realize, well, wait a minute, this is the shit that's in the movies.
Wait
That's
a
kinda
minute,
fun.
this shit is dangerous. Scene was
Yeah.
not safe. BSI. I did have my
Mhm.
BSIs. Shut up. Anyways,
There is such a
So-
thing as I forget what they call it. It's an emergency extrication or something where basically it's a rapid move of a patient where you're like, fuck C-spine, get them out, move them.
well, and that's what we did. We were within.
This called for that.
Yeah, we were within like 5, maybe 10 feet of this vehicle. So the dude, for whatever reason, who had him over his shoulder, put him on the ground. I was like, well, we could have just walked him out, but okay. So you put him on the ground. So I was like, okay, I need you to grab an arm and move. Like we need to drag him. I was worried about his neck, but I was like, we need to drag him because if this vehicle explodes, we're screwed. And I mean, the forest is actively on fire.
Yeah.
Anyways, so right about this time, fire pulls up on scene at the same time my BLS unit pulls up on scene, and I like holler up to them, and I'm like, "Hey, I need all C-spine precautions to get the patient
All
up."
of them.
So the first EMT, the older EMT, slides down, and I'm like, "Okay, grab an arm. We need to move him a little bit further." And he goes, "I don't have my gloves," and I was like, "What?" He goes, "I didn't bring my gloves." I was like, "I
But
don't
why?
care." Well, I was like, "I don't care." Like this dude, I could already tell was like 40 to 50% burn. I mean, his skin was falling off of half his body. Like I understand it's icky, but at the same time, you're an EMS. Why did you slide down this hill to do patient care without your gloves? So already not a great start. I was like, whatever. Sorry, dude, grab an arm. So we moved the patient. So the other kid comes down, starts handing stuff over, and he hands me a spine board with like 2 of the 3 straps and then head blocks. I was like, where's my C-collar? I didn't bring one. Why? I care more about, I mean, if we're being honest, I care more about the C-collar than the head blocks. And they
Yeah.
were the really weird, like little foam ones with like the little like back pad thing.
Mhm.
I was like, I need a C-collar. This dude rolled down the hill like in an inflamed fire. Apparently he had self-extricated and then like collapsed right next to it, and then the dude had like drug him like 4 more feet. But anyways, so it was just a hot mess. Long story short, we finally drag him up the hill. Stretcher was nowhere to be found. Finally get him on the stretcher, get him in the truck. So I'm doing an airway assessment. Dude is like 50% burned. He's altered. He's complaining of shortness of breath and tightness in his throat. All of us on scene are actively coughing. Patient was not coughing. Like everything indicated an airway. So one of the kids gets in the back of the truck, sits in the captain's seat while I'm doing an airway assessment and starting an IV. I had already anticipated that I was going to have to RSI him, and he just sits in the captain's chair and looks at me. And I was like,
Mm-mm-mm.
"Can I help you?" He was like, "What do you need?" I was like, "Baby, I need a set of vitals." "Well, what all do you need?"
Oh my
"I
God.
need all of them."
Like, okay, if you don't understand, at the bare minimum, blood pressure, heart rate, O2 sat. That's a great starting point. That covers 90% of your bases right there.
Well, and then I asked for oxygen, and he's like, "Nasal cannula 2 liters," and I was like, "No, no, baby, I want a non-rebreather." "Stop! You're shaking the thing." I was like, "I want a non-rebreather." He was so sweet, but like
So sweet,
neither
but so stupid. I'm just kidding.
it. I mean, it was one of those
Sweet
things
summer
like
child.
wanted to help. Like when I told him what I wanted, he did it. Like I guess you could say, knew his job.
Mm-hmm.
But there was the lack of initiative. Like, I shouldn't have to tell you, wear your fucking gloves on a trauma. Or, I need a full set of vitals on a trauma. Or
Or you need to
I don't
immobilize
know.
a patient. Like, and we, as much as anybody, are advocates of not like fully immobilizing every trauma patient just because.
Mhm.
I came up in that. Like that's the way it was when I first got into this job, and
It
I'm
it
so
it
fucking glad we don't have to do that
well, I
shit
was say
anymore.
it was when I was coming up in it too. That was something that was actively taught, but evidence-based medicine shows no. But I mean, we had to get him out, all the
Yeah, but
things.
like at the bare minimum, you should
Spinal
know
immobilization.
C-collar,
Mhm.
board, and straps. If nothing else, we can deal with the foam blocks later,
Yeah.
like or head blocks or whatever. Just at the bare minimum, that's what you need.
Mhm.
It's
But I mean,
not rocket science. It's not
mhm.
complicated.
But I mean, just learning to take the initiative, like they were able to do all of these skills that are within their scope, but needing to learn to take the initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of it because, like, if I'm having to start an IV and do the RSI, then, the EMT partners are able to, you know, get vitals. They're, spike a bag. You can start oxygenation. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've had a new EMT when I'm doing like the full sepsis protocol. I'm like, "Baby, you have more stuff that you could physically be doing while I'm doing the aseptic like culture draw."
Mm-hmm.
On a sepsis call, an EMT has more that they can do than we do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's taking the initiative. And don't get me wrong, we have had bukus of partners that do wonderfully when taking the initiative. Just there seems to be a larger number of EMTs and paramedics that are not taking the initiative, and I don't understand, especially if you weren't taught something, that's one thing. But if you were taught something, work within your scope of practice. I think we've shared previously where me as a paramedic, I've been on a critical care call. My critical care paramedics had something to
Mm-hmm.
do. So I did everything within my scope, including mixing the fentanyl drip, starting that, doing this and that. There are certain things that we can do within our scope up to the point that we can no longer provide care, and then it's passed off to the higher certification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I can't. It's hard. It's hard for me to, because there's so many of them, go back and think of exact delineate between calls where I had strong EMT partners and ones where I didn't. But I think to me the best a strong EMT partner is someone who you can give a task that is within their scope of practice. My favorite example of this is airway management.
I was going to say CPAP is my favorite.
But but literally so much of airway management is BLS care. And even the sicker a patient is, the simpler it gets. You got an unconscious patient, but I have to do, X, Y, and Z other things. There are certain things that only I can do for that patient legally. But when it comes to, say, airway management, there's a lot of overlap. And honestly, I mean, EMTs can insert biads. They can do all your other basic airway adjuncts. The 99% of stuff that needs to happen, they can do. They can suction. They can do all of those things to manage that airway effectively prior to me needing to disconnect and do that. So, like, I look at it as a strong EMT has a very full sense of what they can do
Mm-hmm.
and has a strong understanding of where that line is that they have now crossed into. Okay, I am incapable of bettering the situation. And I think a lot of and unfortunately a lot of it is due to um absolutely horrifically unprofessional paramedics who shit on their EMTs and put them down and make them take a back seat. Fuck, if you're a strong EMT, you want to come in, you start doing shit, like, yeah, let's communicate. Communicate. That's one big thing right there. Talk to me what you're doing. But then do it. Go do things. Like, go say, hey, like, and I would do this as an EMT. Hey, do you want me to go ahead and hook this up? Do you want me to go ahead and do this? Do you want me to go ahead and start managing this? Yes. Okay, cool. I got it. And you don't need to police me. You don't need to, micromanage me. You do your thing. I do my thing. We're golden.
I will say I think there's a double-edged sword with this. Because a lot of times the strong EMTs will be working, let's say you have a double EMT truck
Mm-hmm.
and call for a QRV
Mm-hmm.
or, another unit for a paramedic. And I've seen it too many times where you have the strong EMTs, the paramedic gets on scene, they're like, it's borderline, but you're a strong EMT, so I'm just gonna BLS it to you. And like there are some EMTs that are like, I would almost argue overly confident
Mm-hmm.
in being a strong EMT. And it's like, just because you can manage this now, you need to understand that things can go south very quickly and there may be something that you can't handle.
Well,
And that there's an underlying pathophysiology that you may not understand.
and this becomes such a complex issue
Yes.
because, as you can tell, we have many tangents that can go off of it. But something I have seen a lot of, and a lot more of it recently, is EMTs who have the attitude of, well, you know what? I can't make everybody happy, so I'm just not going to do anything until I'm told. And
Mm-hmm.
what's going on there is that is taking it out of the realm of being patient centric and being egocentric.
Mm-hmm.
And medics do this too. Medics do this too. This is not just an EMT problem, but we're specifically addressing the breakdown of when you have people who are intelligent, who actually know what needs to be done, who willingly aren't
Mm-hmm.
because they're fucking pouting like a child because, oh, I get irritated by so and so. No, and a lot of times they're the same EMTs who will try to take credit for shit that they didn't actually do,
Mm-hmm.
and try to show off that, like with spinal immobilization, people are like, oh well, I think they needed to be this, and a medic with some wits about them can say, hey, that patient actually doesn't meet criteria for that. We don't need to do all that. And they'll go, and the EMT will go run their mouth and make it this big thing. It's like, oh, that paramedic doesn't know shit. No, they do actually know a little bit more than you sometimes, but also sometimes they are being shitty. So it's such a there's so many different scenarios that can erupt, which is why I really believe it needs to be broken down to patient centric thinking, patient centric providers, so that when you're on a shit call, everybody's focused on what does the patient need, what needs to happen to the patient, what are the priorities for the patient right now, and let's do those things. Let's check those things off. Let's make sure we're covering all of those bases. And that thinking is just not happening as consistently anymore. I don't see it very consistently at all. It's, oh, we're frustrated because we have to be out here. We don't want to be here. Or, oh, this is a bullshit call. Why are we? Your job is to fucking show up. Okay, period. Like, take your ego out of it. And I get it. It's frustrating
Mm-hmm.
showing up to bullshit calls, but your attitude on the bullshit calls and how you handle the day-to-day stuff is very indicative of how you're going to perform on oh shit call. If you just don't give a fuck, And you're just like, all right, cool, whatever. We just show up. We're just a taxi. That's fine. When I really need you to be engaged, to think and to process shit, you're going to be absolutely fucking useless.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's just, and the same is true for medics.
Well, I was about to say, and with paramedics, it's, always BLS before ALS.
Mm-hmm.
You have to manage your ABCs before you can go into all the, extra stuff. Sure, we push drugs during a cardiac arrest, but I doubt the United States is ever going to do this. But I mean, there have been multiple studies from more advanced countries in certain aspects, that have found epi in a cardiac arrest actually detrimental to patient care. So like, I had a point and then it left me.
It's fine. Evidence-based medicine changes.
Oh, in a cardiac arrest. So
Mm-hmm.
if paramedics aren't pushing drugs, if in theory they took away epi and this and that and all the rest of it, really all a paramedic might do during a cardiac arrest is an IO and
Fluids.
well, I was gonna say intubation, but yeah.
Oh yeah, that too.
And I mean, in advance can start an IO, IV, and basic fluids.
Can't advance intubate too? I think they can.
I think it depends on where, but
But
I think
as far as
I
the
think they
National
can.
Registry standard, they can.
I'm pretty sure they can.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, short of actual cardiac meds, I
Mhm.
mean, it's BLS before ALS. But that brings us to paramedics need to take initiation too. Paramedics need to take initiation. Not
Needs
initiation.
to take initiative.
God damn it! Why?
Well,
Why
so and here's
initiation?
a little sidebar on this that I think is important because we talk about communication and the pass down reports or handoff reports aren't just for EMS to the hospital. Like, say if I show up first on a call and I'm interviewing a patient, I've done all this and that, and then I have my transport crew walks in. Whether they're ALS or BLS doesn't really fucking matter.
No.
And I will look at them and be like, hey, so this is so and so. They're this age. This is what's been going on. Give them the absolute full report. Even if I'm not transferring care, even if I'm staying as primary, I will still fill them in and treat them like fucking professionals. And say, and because it teaches them something, it keeps them in the headspace in case the call goes south.
Mm-hmm.
Like it engages them, and that's what we should be fucking doing.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if they're the same cert level as us. It doesn't matter if they're not going to take over primary care. Inform them of what's going on, and the same applies to your basics. If you're a basic that shows up on scene first, whether you're a firefighter, whether you're with a BLS transport unit, or you just happen to show up, like you just come up on something and you're off duty time, take the time to seek out whoever your responding people are and give them a full report. Don't just be like, oh yeah, they're complaining of this, and just sit on your ass and not do shit. Like if you beat me there and you're a basic truck, you can be doing things. You can be taking blood pressures if you need. If you know they're going to be on the monitor, obviously, if it's a chest pain call, put them on the fucking monitor. That way, I can walk in the door, hand me a strip. Okay, cool, we're good. Let's get out of here. Like, this sitting on our hands thing is really getting old. Like, and I'm not just saying this to bitch. Like, it's not right to our patients. It's not right. It sends the absolute horrifically wrong message to the general public about what we do and don't do. If you walk into a call and all you're doing is carrying in the computer, hoping that you get a waiver out of it, you are in the wrong fucking business. You walk in there, you need to be carrying in something, whether it's a first in bag or a monitor or something. And for God's sake, get your stretcher out of the fucking truck. Even if all you do is drag it into the front yard, get your stretcher out of the fucking truck. And I get it because when I worked on a transport unit, you hoped that like, well, maybe if I won't jinx myself by not bringing the stretcher out. Unload the damn stretcher. Just do it. It's not fucking complicated. It's not hard. Just do it.
Well, and so oftentimes now you have the power load, but
Anyway, sorry, I had to go on a little side tangent there.
No, it's fine.
Medics.
But like, yeah, as paramedics, yes, giving pass down report, whether you stay primary or pass off, is important. But when you get on scene, like, for example, with the QRVs, we're sent out to certain priority calls regardless of cert level of the transport truck.
Mhm.
So, like, if the transport truck gets there and then I walk on scene unless something is going seriously fucking wrong, I'm there to help. I'm there to help. I'm not there to overstep and measure my dick with
Hmm.
somebody else. Like,
I promise hers is bigger than
there,
yours.
there have been times in my career where, not even as a QRV provider, but like I was actually on paramedic ride time. I was with two paramedics. We were called out to a Walmart distribution center actually for chest
Somewhere,
pain.
hypothetically.
Well, I mean, there's also a lot
I know.
in
I know.
the world. But I mean, a very large, like, industrial place,
Yeah.
kind of. Um, whatchamacallit? But almost there, it turns into a cardiac arrest. Well, apparently, this African American male had been sitting in the nurse's station for 45 minutes with chest pain. She literally said, "Oh, it's anxiety, sweetie. Take a breath." And then apparently it was probably a
She took a
STEMI,
last breath,
and yeah, and he coded. Um,
or he did. Whatever.
but long story short, we're working it. It's a mega code. We shock him bukus of times, push all the drugs. We're like, okay, time to transport. Like, it was a legit mega code. It was a witnessed arrest, all of the
Hmm.
things. Well, the supervisor gets on scene like 30 minutes into this code because we'd already worked it on scene for 20. It took time, 20, 25. It took time to get him into the truck. She literally gets onto our truck as we start transporting. Mind you, if you include me, the baby paramedic, we have three paramedics. So two of us were in the back, one was driving. She gets into the back of the truck and wants to overstep and run the code.
Hmm.
And we're like, you're literally last on scene. So like she's like, oh, it's time for this. So we're like, have already pushed amiodarone, like can't push anymore, like, all of these
Yeah.
things. And it's
If
like,
you'd listened,
well, not even listened. If you're last on scene and you already have somebody that's the same cert level, it's not royally fucking up. You're just there to help. At that point, it's, hey, we've done this, this, and this. We're at this point of, the algorithm or whatever the call is.
yeah.
So even as a paramedic, take the, not initiation, the initiative. I don't know why I keep want to say the wrong word tonight. Take the initiative to help, do things within your scope, but do not overstep.
Hmm.
Like, if it's a BLS call, and the BLS crew shows up and then you show up and it's an obviously BLS call, um help the crew get the patient on the stretcher. Like, help one crew member get the patient on the stretcher while
Hmm.
the other one is getting demographics. Why
Well,
are you too good that you can't carry bags or help move a patient or load the stretcher? I can't tell you how many times an EMT has thanked me for helping offload a patient from the truck. And I'm like,
but why not?
Yeah, but why not? Like, I'm part of the situation,
Yeah.
even if I'm not actively crewed on your truck.
Well, and even like, because I'll have a similar situation where I'll walk in and whether or not it's BLS,
Hmm.
when I walk in, I shut the fuck up because, well, okay, hopefully shut the fuck up because presumably someone is in there already talking to the patient, already assessing, already building rapport with that patient. And if I were to come in and just start running my fucking mouth, I I degrade that other person in front of the patient, which is not appropriate.
Hmm.
I'm probably going to irritate the patient because they're like, "Well, I just answered these questions." Um, and you're not going to help the situation any. You're not going to benefit the situation at all. So show up and shut up and listen. And then when that person who's assessing the patient is ready, ask them for a report. Be like, "Hey, what you got?" Now, if you both got there at the same time, whatever, they ask like two questions and then look at you like, "Hey, go ahead. Okay, cool. That's fine."
Well, yeah.
But don't come in with your dick out trying to act like you're all that in a bag of chips when someone else is genuinely trying to do their job. That is a major reason that a lot of EMTs have gotten disheartened
Hmm.
and frustrated and aren't showing initiative. It's because people treat them that way.
Hmm.
We're conditioning them. So if you want people to behave better, you got to treat them a little bit better.
Hmm.
It's not complicated. It's not fucking complicated.
Well, and my favorite thing to do at the end of a call, whether it's just, BLS with an IV, ALS call, or it's an oh shit call, my favorite thing at the very end, whether it's an ALS crew, a BLS crew, whatever we had to do is, do you have any questions, comments, or concerns? Like, we discuss the call, and honestly, I can't tell you how many BLS crews are like, "Hey, now I want to learn." Like, not
Mm-hmm.
just what I could hit, because plenty of them will ask, "What could I have done better to help you?" But they'll also ask, like, a lot of them want to know the pathophysiology. Like, I walked in, I was called out to a doctor's office for I think it was called out for allergic reaction facial swelling. I walked in, I took one look at the patient, and honestly, after assessing her ABCs, my first question out of my mouth was, "Do you take lisinopril?" And I cannot tell you how fast that EMT's head whipped around. I can't, like, it looked like she broke her neck. And literally, she was like,
Huh?
of all questions.
Right.
So at the end, like we talked a little bit about it, and I kind of vaguely explained it to the patient, like why, because she's like, "Oh, I've been on it for like 30 years." She's an older lady, but at the end of the call, I was like, "Hey, let's talk about this." And outside of, is there anything we could have done better? It was wireless Linapro. Like
Right.
why? Like why of all medications? I was like, it was low hanging fruit. And she was like, "Explain." And
Mm-hmm.
we had a genuine conversation. I
Yeah.
guarantee you, she's gonna remember that for the rest of her career. And no, she's not a paramedic, but that's an assessment question that she can still ask.
Yeah. Yeah. I just there's so much value, and you EMTs get shit on so hard. Um, and I hate it. I really fucking hate it. I personally was an EMT who did take pride in my job. Did I fuck up? Yes.
Everybody does.
Um,
Even
I
experienced
I
people.
I have there's calls or I that we could go on for a while about that. I'm ashamed of the level of dumbassery from myself.
Are you talking about your first stroke call?
No, no, not even that. Not even that. No, like one where I legitimately, it was like a psych patient, and I just completely read the room wrong when we got to the hospital. And like, thankfully nothing bad happened, but my partner pulled me aside afterwards and was like, "Dude, like I fucking needed you." And you just were like sitting there like, "Okay, that looks kind of funny." Like you fucked up. Stuff like that. Like you have those lessons that you need to live and learn, but I took it to heart and I cared about it because I care about this job. And so what you so this is a personal topic to me because I really feel that EMTs, especially in today's market, are being very underrated and very underappreciated. And you know because we were talking about it in the context of when I showed up to back up a medic on a bad trauma. This was God, this was probably like a month and a half ago or something. And I was just joking. I was like, it kind of felt like being an EMT again because I got to come out and play, but I didn't have to do any of the paperwork. Because I wasn't the one, pushing drugs and trying to drop tubes and all this stuff. I mean, it was a fucked up trauma. Um, but it got me thinking. I was like, to me, what I was doing was basic level stuff because the primary medic was focused on, hey, I have to get this fucked up airway, and it was fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Dude had so much facial trauma, it was ridiculous. But what I tried to do at that moment as his backup was coordinate the other stuff, get the equipment he needed, get things set up, move people around, like coordinate with the transport crew, getting this guy out of there so we could get him onto the helo, like taking the burden off of him so that he could focus on what he was doing and not have to stress about all the other crap that needs to be done. Because, yes, as medics, we are trained to handle all of that and to prioritize all of that and everything. But God, I can't tell you how wonderful it is when you have an EMT who kind of knows what's what, who knows generally like what's needing to happen and doesn't get tunnel vision and doesn't sit on their ass, but will actually start making things happen so that I can focus on the things that only I can do. I shouldn't have to be doing the things that you can do for you. You should be able to do those things so I can focus on what I need to do for this patient.
Well, and I've heard the argument relatively frequently that, oh, well, I don't know you, so I don't know what you want.
Bull fucking shit. It doesn't matter.
No, like I understand that there's a certain level of like when you work with somebody for so long, you like don't have to communicate, but you can still do your job effectively and efficiently.
Hmm.
Um taking the initiative to do your job and communicate with somebody that you've just met. That's the whole
Yeah.
point of having general education and training,
Hmm.
is so you can have these random people, run these calls together and still in general be able to do patient-centered medicine,
Yeah.
not medication.
It's I'm sick and tired of you motherfuckers that belittle the basics and make them out like they're slaves. Like they're there to do your bidding. No. They're there to assist a patient. They're there to provide care for a patient.
I
And
also
they can do some of the most critical stuff. The non-flashy, non-fancy, non-sexy shit. That's what the EMTs can fucking do. And they can do it well if we reinforce it with them and build them up and teach them and help them with those things that they can do well. But instead, what? No, we treat them like shit. And it's wrong. It's fucking wrong.
Well, I have a problem with the paragods that also treat newer paramedics. I still get this sometimes, like shit because I have fewer years of service. But I would also argue, yeah, we need to stop treating each other like shit, but also don't be a passive person that's a complete doormat pushover. Like, have
Hmm.
some balls and push back and be
Yes.
like, no, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like, don't treat me like shit. I can do this. Um, so take the initiative.
Yeah.
But along with that, outside of care, one other thing that we wanted to kind of touch on is all providers, regardless of your job, supervisor, EMT, driver, whatever. Y'all need to take the initiative to take care of your health, especially your mental health. We have talked about how, the critical stress incident debriefings and stuff, how they should be happening, but how often do they actually? On top of that, EAP is available to any provider at any given time for anything. Um, but you have to take the initiative to ask for it. Um, you if you don't want your supervisor to know, you should be able to access it through, just call HR and ask how you can get in contact with somebody. Don't wait to have like a psychotic break, a mental health break, a suicide attempt, something bad happen, or wait for your supervisor to come up to you from a fast team, oh, they have a bunch of different names, like peer support group or whatever, like after a bad call, and be like, sweetie, do you need to talk to somebody? Like, take the initiative and realize, like, hey, I'm not handling that well. I need to talk to somebody, whether it's your spouse or it's getting in charge, or not in charge, in touch with EAP. We need to take the initiative and not wait for other people to be like, something's wrong with you, or do you want this?
The moral of the story of well, not the story, but of the episode is give a damn. Give a damn about your patients, about your patient care, about your own health. Give a damn. And and stop, don't take everything personally, but look at yourself as a conduit for caring for people. That is what you're here to do. When you're on the job, you got to take care of your people. When you're off the clock, you got to take care of yourself. I mean, when you're on the clock, you got to take care of yourself too. But the petty bullshit is not going to help our patients. It's going to hurt patients. You're going to hurt people by getting bent out of shape about shit that isn't important, and by belittling other responders, and by not being able to function as a team. Obviously, if someone's getting in the way of patient care, get them out of the way. Like, either literally forcibly have them removed, or verbally remove them, however you want to do it.
And you can always get law enforcement to detain somebody. That has happened before. Not to me.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I'm gonna
Yep,
keep my mouth shut.
just.
Stories. Anyway.
But it has happened.
Yeah. So, anyway, EMTs, you're awesome. We love you. Keep doing a good job. Strive to do better. Prepare for the marriage, not the wedding.
Paramedics, do better. Be better. Take
All of us.
initiative. Don't be, what is the expression?
Don't shit on your EMTs that take initiative too, even if they don't do it the right way. Be patient. Encourage the initiative.
Well,
Counsel if you need to.
but that's why I feel like end of call reviews are so important after
Mhm.
every single call. Even
Yeah.
if all it is what do we do right? My paramedic FTO, literally at the end of every call, he was like, "What did we do right? What could we have done better?"
Mhm.
Not even what's good and bad, just
Mhm.
what
Yeah.
could we have done better? And even if it's literally like nothing, that was that was an awesome thing. At least you're opening the door to have that communication.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if you learned something, awesome. Tell your friends about it. If you're offended, good. You probably should be. You can tell your friends about that too. Let them know you're a little bitch. Anyway, have a good night. We'll talk to you guys next time. Bye bye.